Yeah, please.
Yeah. Welcome, teachers. Welcome to this webinar on how to improve the academic performance of a school. Myself, Akash. Uh, so we belong to a company called as MyPet. So MyPet basically is my personalized assessment test, and so we are part of the Fitji group. And Fitji is a well-known company in the market, and they have been producing toppers from last 25 years for competitive exams. And in that way, we see that their content is very good, very strong. Okay, so we want to utilize that, and we are basically a tech company, and we have created a tech product while partnering with Fitji. So our content is powered by Fitji, but all the tech-related solutions are prepared by us, and we are into the market from last 4 or 5 years, largely catering to individual students, and right now more than 60,000 parents use our product. And so we will come to know more about like the product and all those details. So yeah, so in today's session we are going to focus on sorry, how to leverage the solutions which have been made, and how can we utilize them to improve the academic performance. And more than that, we would also like to learn from you around the solution and the philosophy with which we are working on. And if you have any suggestions, we would definitely like to incorporate them in our further development as we progress further. Yeah, so without wasting further time, I'll start. So just give me 1 second. I hope my screen is visible to everyone.
Yes, Akash, it is visible.
Great. Yeah. So as you can see here, we are going to talk today about improving the academic performance of a school. And so when we started working on this problem, the first thing with which we started was like, okay, when we are talking about a school, the first thing which came to our mind was teachers. So we started with talking to teachers. Okay. And when talking to teachers, we found there are a lot of things which needs to be improved, and there are certain areas which definitely needs improvement, especially in the current time of COVID. Okay. So after talking to everyone, like we conducted a survey, and I personally talked to a lot of teachers. So we contacted around 300 plus teachers in the market, and these are the major inputs we received from all of them. So in the current time, especially from last 6 7 months, because of coronavirus, we are facing some certain changes. But the changes which we are going to talk today are like they are we are facing them from like so many years now, because the way things are changing nowadays from last 10 15 years, lot of change has taken place, lot of technological progress has been made. So what all it means for us as a teacher, and how can we leverage that to actually take our best foot forward. So the first thing which I would like to put here is information abundance. This was one of the things which we found, like teachers told us. And it basically means that earlier we were living in a world of information scarcity, but now we are living in the world of information abundance. Because of internet, everything is available. You just have to type a question here and you will get the answers. But earlier, because of this, some new type of problems have come. We will discuss this in this session. Simultaneously in the school, how do you measure the learning effectiveness? That is another key thing which is coming nowadays. And so we are sitting in the houses, we are conducting online classes. And even if when we are conducting like offline classes in the school, how do we measure the learning effectiveness? Whether as a teacher, whatever I am teaching, is it good enough for the students? Are they able to learn something from it? Okay. So there are good teachers who can just look into the eyes of their students and figure out whether the class is able to understand something or not. But is there something more can be done? Can we utilize some of the latest developments in academics or technology to actually improve that? And the third thing is engagement. So this problem is specifically related to it, like past 4 or 5 months because classes are happening in an online environment. And what has happened is right now the entire classroom experience has been limited to a mobile or computer screen. Okay, so students are free to choose whatever they want to see in the computer screens. They can even go to a YouTube video and then see it, right? So then engagement becomes a key aspect here. Like how can teachers keep classroom engaged so that in addition to learning whatever they want to learn, they also take part in classroom activities and give their full participation in that. That is also something. And now after that, technology tools, as you know, like so many new things have come up nowadays, so we should be using technology tools. So all of you are we are connected here through Zoom classes. We did not know about it like 4 or 5 months back, but now we are extensively using it. Like companies are running from online conferences now. This is just one example. There are other tools also which have come, like how do we conduct the assessment, okay, using technology tools. We will, so everyone as a teacher or students, anyone who's there, all of them are learning through all these things. Then ultimately all these things are actually resulting into how do we manage a good learning experience in my class. So these are the core changes which we observed after talking to 300 plus teachers. Going further, so the first problem which information abundance poses us is collecting versus curating. Okay. So a general tendency we had like around 10 or 15 years back was to collect as much information as possible. If I have a song, I will collect so many cassettes and DVDs for that particular song or from a particular artist that people used to have good collections of them. But now there is no need. You can, like, whichever video you want to see, whichever song you want to listen, you can just go online and you can find it. It is available. Now what we are looking for is, okay, what is the best playlist from this particular singer? If you want to listen to Muhammad Rafi songs, okay, so you can just type in, and now you will be looking to, okay, what is the good playlist on YouTube available which I can listen to. Okay, these are some examples. So our behavior is changing from collecting to curating now. Information is already available. I don't want to collect it. I want to curate it. Whatever is available, I want to ensure that it is serving my current purpose, because so much junk content is also coming. So you go to YouTube on a daily basis, like thousands of videos are getting uploaded, but not all of them are good for us. And we want just limited information from them, and that will serve our purpose. This is one thing. And like how the role of teachers is evolving because of this. So there are basically three dimensions of this. Okay, one is teaching, second is evaluation, and third is administration. So especially in the online world, and like even if using offline as well, so these are the core three aspects. So teaching is like how do we handle the interactions with students? How can teachers talk to students, and how can students approach teachers? There are different ways of doing that. Okay, and how these things are getting managed in an online first world. That is something which we will discuss in this talk. And next thing is evaluation. Communication is fine, but how do we ensure the effectiveness of our classroom? How do we know whether someone is learning from our lecture or not? And to what extent are people learning? Okay, so all that comes into the evaluation. Then the third thing is administration. It is related to non-academic things, like how to arrange, how to do the classroom scheduling. And when classes were running in offline mode, then a lot of other things were also coming into, like fees, payroll, and all that. So when we see like out of these three, these two are majorly into your core academic activities. This is something like non-academic. Okay. So in this session, we are going to focus on these two.
Excuse me, Akash sir.
Yes, sir.
Akash sir, Ankush
Yes,
from
Ankush.
Kanpur, area
Yes,
manager.
Ankush. Yeah, Ankush.
Two participants are more have joined with us. One is Sweet Angel International School, and one is Sapna ma'am from CHS Education Center. Ma'am, you can introduce yourself, sir, if you want to.
Yes,
Welcome,
sir.
ma'am.
This is Sapna Chauhan from CHS Education Center, Kanpur.
Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good to have you. So we would like to know your inputs also, or if in case you feel like you want to add any point, please feel free to add. And we would definitely like to know about your perspective to improve our understanding whatever we are discussing now. Okay, ma'am. Yeah. So yeah. So far, like I think all of you would be running some online classes. Is there any teacher in the session today who have not conducted any online class till now? I would like to know, and how has been their experience? I think none of them. So since we are sitting anyways on Zoom, so I think all of us are running the classes online.
Online classrooms as on date.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, moving further. So first we will talk about how the teaching is happening in the online first world. Then we will go to evaluation. Okay. Yeah. So when we were talking about like teaching in an online world, so there are basically two ways. One is running the live classes, and second is teaching asynchronously. Running live classes is nothing but whatever we are doing right now also. Okay. So students and teachers log in through some online classroom provider, like right now we are using Zoom. Okay. And then they interact with each other. This is live class, which we are doing also. And this is something similar. Okay. In case of teaching asynchronously, what happens is teachers will record their lectures first in the form of a video or in the form of a notes or audio file. Then they will share it with the students on any medium like WhatsApp. It can be shared, or you can share it through emails or whatever different ways you have. Okay. So these are the majorly two modes. And from a student side also, if students have any question, they can submit their questions. Teachers will answer it. They can even put a comment. What some schools have done is they have created different Facebook groups for students. So classes, the asynchronous part is getting conducted through Facebook itself. So teachers teach in the live classes, then they put some questions for the class in the Facebook group, and then students answer it. Okay. So these are two different modes. Some schools are running entirely on one of the mode, but most of the schools are running some kind of a hybrid approach. Okay. So let us look into the benefits and issues which can come because of this. Okay. So live classes, we have active engagement because participants are directly engaged with each other. They can see each other's face and you can get direct feedback. If a student is not able to understand something, they will raise their hands and they will interrupt in the video, like you can also do now as well if something is not understood. So direct feedback is there. Then it also builds credibility of various stakeholders. So since we are directly connected, so it is similar to how our offline classes used to happen in classroom. Okay. So we are able to see each other and we are able to build our credibility in that sense. Okay. But when we come to the issues, you have to follow rigid schedule and it is technologically more demanding. So everyone has to be available on the computer at the same time, and everyone has to have proper active internet connection to be able to participate in live classes. Yeah. Then let us talk about asynchronous way. So it is flexible. There is no limitation of schedule. Like I will upload my lecture and students can go through it whenever they want, they are free or as per their convenience. Okay. In that way, it is self-paced also. If I don't understand something, I can run that video or audio or notes again. I can go through them again. Okay. It is technologically less demanding also. I just have to come online for a while and then I can download everything and then I can go through it as per my convenience. Okay. But again, there is no one-on-one contact with the teacher you will have. Teachers will just upload their lectures and you will go through it. You won't be able to ask direct questions. There won't be any emotional connect. And that is why it is very hard to motivate the learners. If a learner is motivated enough, then this is the best way. But in schools, we also need to take care of non-academic things like classroom motivation and engagement. That is why live classes come into the picture and are very, very beneficial in that way as well. Okay. Let us move further. So running live classes is fine, but again, there is a dark side of running the live classes. Okay. Some students can come in the class and speak something inappropriate, or they can draw something on the screen. Okay. Which can cause like uncomfortable situations in the classrooms. Okay. But with the help of technology tools, we are able to find out people who are doing that. Okay. So just to give an example here, we as a company, we have faced like more than 100 such complaints where some students were doing something no, something inappropriate in the class, but we were able to find them out. Okay, that is how we like gave the list of students who were causing some problems, and schools were able to take appropriate actions on them. Okay, so this is how it can be managed. So this is about running the online classes. Now I will be moving towards the next part which we were discussing, which is classroom evaluation. Before going further into that, I will have a simple question to all the faculties in this session. So as you can see on the screen, my question is teaching an art or science? Any teachers want to share their opinions, please feel free to do so right now. What do
Sir,
you think?
basically, sir, myself, Archana from the Gaurav Memorial School over here.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, art is the way you get to be express the things over there. In the science, we can be scientifically get to be make an approach toward the student, because every student does not have a same approach over there, and we have to be scientifically get to be prove over there. The art means to create an environment of teaching in the class over there that every person should be involved in their study over there. So teaching is considered as both art as well as in science also, because we are doing a scientifically study of the student over there and find out the best solution over there.
Okay. Okay. So we have got Archana ma'am saying that it is kind of both, because there are individual components and it is required, like both of them are required at the same time. Any other teachers who have any different opinion than this? See, because personally, I will say in these webinars, what I have observed is 90% of the faculty say that teaching is an art. Okay. I am of the opinion that it is more of a science, but yeah, it is, we can like, that is the more balanced view. It is a mixture of both of them. We will see like how it is, how different things are combined here. But the overall objective of the point which I'm trying to drive here is, let us see, like I will cover it. So you can see a statement on my screen which says that humanity's progress is the story of converting art to science. Okay, so basic difference between art and science is of tangibleness versus intangibleness. Okay, something which is intangible, like creativity or critical thinking, I would say, like you can say, okay, this person is a very good artist, but there is no criteria which, it just looks good, but you are not able to find out why is it that good. Okay, so that is the intangible component which makes something an art. Okay, Lata Mangeshkar is a very good singer, but why is she a very good singer? Why am I not a very good singer? Can I measure that? Can I find the reason behind it? Okay, so that is the cause of intangibleness, and that is what makes art an art. Okay, but there are certain things which are tangible also. Okay, I can run very fast. I can measure it, right? Someone is a faster runner than someone. It means he will take less time than another one. Okay, so we can measure it. Okay, so this is what we have been doing as a human race. We are progressing whenever we are trying to like find out some reasons behind these intangible things and trying to come up with some theory so that it allows us to measure it. Okay, this is how we are doing it. So just to give one example here, sometimes back when it used to rain, people used to think that it is some kind of god is giving them punishment, that's why it is raining, and that's why thunderstorms come and all that. But now we have found out the reasons behind it. It is because of air pressure simply, right, which is causing these different natural phenomena. So our understanding has increased. So we are converting something which is intangible to tangible now. In the case of education also, we will see how is this relevant. Okay, so let me just give you the example right now itself. So in case of education, I hope my screen is visible. There is a blank screen I have opened. Please confirm.
It is
It is
visible.
visible.
Yes, sir. It is visible. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Blank screen. Yeah. Okay. So how this art versus science debate looks like in case of education. Okay. So there are some parts of teaching classroom or teaching learning experience which are intangible, like classroom is very engaging, classroom is very entertaining, it is very effective also. Okay. So one effort was made around 50 years back by a person called as Benjamin Bloom. Okay. Sorry for my handwriting, it is not very good. So this is the person who made an effort to make education more tangible. Okay, he gave a theory of which we call as Bloom's taxonomy. Using this theory, he gave lot of rules to us, which allowed us to measure the progress a student can have. Okay, so he gave like different levels of learning, starting from remembering to understanding to creativity or critical thinking or evaluation, right? So there are like 5-6 different stages which he gave, and you can identify those stages by learning objectives which are associated with different verbs. Okay, so that is one attempt which has been made in education to make it more tangible. Okay, and a lot of companies like us also, we are working on to make it more tangible so that we can easily predict it and we can control more learning outcomes in the class. We will see how we can do that. Okay, but before going into that, I would like to give you one other statement here, which is given by this person called as Peter Drucker. He told that whatever can be measured can be improved. Okay, this is a very profound statement, and it is around 100 years old statement. Okay, to give an example here, let us say a person has gained a lot of weight in lockdown. He has gained like 10 to 15 kg of weight. Now that person wants to reduce the weight. What will be the first step that person will take? Please tell. I want to reduce my weight. What should be the first step I should take here? The hint answer is already there on the screen. Okay, just to help you out, that person will start with weighing. Okay, if I want to reduce my weight, I first have to weigh it. I want to know, okay, I am 15 kg above the expected weight. Okay, so it starts with measurement. Okay, if you are able to measure it, then you will know, okay, this is my current status, this is the final stage I want to get into, and this much effort will be required. Now, based on that, you will come up with some plan. You will change your diet. You will like do a lot of exercises. Then again, after some time, you will again measure your weight, and it will give you inputs on which exercises are working, which diet is working, what changes do I need to make. Okay, so all these things are closely related to measurement. Okay, so that is what I'm trying to say here. If you want to improve anything, you first better start measuring it. And this is something which we want to bring to schools also. Okay, we want to bring more measurement so that we can measure our classroom performance, our student performance, our teachers performance from academic point of view, and then use those data to actually improve the academics in our schools. We will see how. Okay, so when we talk about evaluation in a school, there are basically 3 types of evaluation. Okay, the first one is before teaching, second one is during the teaching, and third one is after teaching. Okay, before teaching the concept, the type of assessment which comes is, it is called as diagnostic assessment. Okay, diagnostic assessment. The purpose of this assessment is basically to know the learning stage of the students, learning state, so that like if my students are not ready to learn a particular concept, there is no point in teaching it actually. Okay, so students should know the prerequisite concepts before. I cannot teach them Newton's second law without teaching them first law. Let us just put it this way, just to give a simple example. Okay, or I cannot teach them multiplication without teaching them addition. Okay, so there is some logical sequence which we follow while teaching. So that sequence is something which you come to know before teaching through diagnostic assessments. Okay, then second one is called as while teaching the concept. Okay, so we also call them as formative assessment. Okay, so formative is basically, as the word suggests, during the formation of knowledge itself. Okay, so the purpose of these assessment is basically to give a feedback to teachers. So after this, teachers will actually know whether whatever they are teaching in the class, are students able to understand it or not. Okay, if they are not able to understand something, that will be captured in formative assessment itself, and teachers can like teach that topic again or figure out some other innovative way to reinforce that knowledge. Then the third one is after teaching the concept, it is also called as summative assessment. Okay. So again, the purpose here is to understand how much student has learned in the class, nothing else. Okay. So let us move further. Now, like when we talk to schools, our like the way we conduct assessment is like traditional way has been to teachers will find out some questions from the books or from their understanding. They will write those questions, they will get it printed, and something same thing will be distributed to the students, and then students are going to attempt those question papers and you will award some marks. Okay, so this is the entire process which goes on. Okay, but nowadays a lot of new tools have come up which can assist the teachers in this entire process, and it will save a lot of time. As a teacher, let us say you are conducting 3 lectures in a day. Okay, so we have 5 days a week on an average, so around 15 to 20 lectures you will teach in a week. So you need to take this decision 15 to 20 times in a week about what kind of questions can I ask. If I have taught something today, were my students able to understand it? Is there a way to assess it? Especially in online world today, right? So you conduct a lecture, you don't know, some of the students had switched off their videos, you were not able to understand whether they were learning or not. But if you had some kind of a question paper, which would hardly take 10 minutes, you can give it to them and then they can learn from it, or you will get a direct feedback. Okay, after out of 10, these students have scored only 2-3 marks. This means they didn't understand today. So you can pay more attention to them. Okay, so this is the idea here. Like lot of these things can be done, and so that your effort, so it also means that you will not be spending time to create the question papers or assess it. You will be actively involved with other quality decisions, which will be like acting on the student marks and to prepare some different method of teaching or giving more personalized interactions and all that. We'll see that. Okay, so yeah, when we talk about measuring the learning effectiveness, there are basically 2 things. Like questions can be in a subjective form as well as objective. Okay, and from teacher side, there are largely 2 actions, like assigning the test and evaluating it. We will see like both subjective and objective are possible here. Okay, so now I will just give you a brief demo on like how this thing works. So let us say I have a student. Okay, so this is the student portal. I will be also opening the teacher portal side by side so that I can show you how it works. So I'm showing 2 screens side by side. Is it visible to everyone? I just want to confirm. So there are 2 windows side by side.
Yeah.
One is for teacher,
Yeah,
one is for
these
student.
are
Yeah.
Okay, okay. So on the right hand side, you can see this is a teacher's account, and on the left hand side, I have a student account. Okay, this is the student account, this is the student name, this is the teacher's name. Okay, so let us say the teacher is in science and they are teaching the topic of diversity in living organism, and they have just completed the lecture and they want to conduct this assessment. So in this topic, so there is this small topic of animalia. Okay, so in this you can see this is the animalia concept, and after teaching the class, I can just go and start attempting it. Okay, so this is logged right now. So teacher will have to unlock it first. After I unlock as a teacher, okay, now if I refresh this, it will be available for me to attempt. Okay, now it is that red color lock is not coming now. Okay, so it is a 20-minute test. I will not be attempting it, but you got the idea, right? So teachers can just complete their class. They can give a test, which will hardly take 10 to 20 minutes. And it will give them instant feedback about how the class has happened. Okay, whether students were able to learn it or not. So based on these tests, a lot of report will get generated. I will show you one example of a report here. Okay, so this is the test report which was generated after some other test. Okay, so we will see like what kind of data can be captured and what kind of academic insights can be drawn from that. Okay, so this test was conducted in Datta Mage World Academy. Around 24 students participated in it, and this is the test date. Going down, So this is the summary of my test, 200 marks, different subjects which were evaluated in the test. Okay. Then some test stats like overall classroom performance, how was it? This was the maximum marks scored. These are the medium marks, minimum marks were these and all that. Then after that, you will have subject wise performance. Okay. So like if we see the performance in physics, this is the average score. And this is the average score in chemistry. As you can see, chemistry average score is higher as compared to physics. Okay. Similarly, like other things like what is the correct percentage. So correct percentage is something after like out of the questions attempted by the students, how much percentage was correct. Okay. So that is also better in chemistry. So we can a bit conclude here that chemistry performance is a bit better than the physics. Similarly, you have performance in biology and mathematics like other subjects. Okay. Yeah. Then there is this mass distribution, which gives an idea like majority of my class lies in this region. My topper is here, and this is the student who have scored less marks. Okay. Then you have your classroom toppers. So top 5 students are using like Harsh Badwe. These are the top 5 students, and this is their marks. Okay. So you can see there is a big delta between classroom rank 1 and classroom rank 2. But now you will find something interesting here. So when we see subject wise toppers, this student is a topper and her actual rank in the class was 2. Okay. If we go down further, this is an interesting thing. Okay. So this student name is Aditya Singh. His overall rank is 14. He is nowhere in the top 10 also, but is highest scorer in physics. Okay. So as a teacher, this is a very good feedback for you. Like you can inform their parents also, and maybe this student is very good in physics and some more attention can be given to so that this student works on his strengths, right? Similarly, when we see mathematics again, so this student was overall classroom topper and is topper in mathematics also, which is very good. Okay. So, but you can see in top 5 students, you also are getting some students who were not in overall good performance, but have scored very good in maths. So these are the kind of insights which you will get. Okay. Then your other subjects are also there. Then there is a list of slow learners also. Okay. So these are the students who did not score very good marks. So these students can be given more attention by the teachers. But the story does not end here. Okay. So I will give you one example. So this is also largely related to how we perceive our role as a teacher. So if you remember in the beginning, I was telling you about how the teacher's role is evolving. Okay. So one example I want to give you here is, so let us say you have a class. Okay. And so there are 2 students in your class. One is A and another is B. Okay. This student is very good in physics. Okay. But not that good in chemistry. Okay. Very good in physics, not good in chemistry. But this student is opposite. When we talk about chemistry, this student is very good. But when we talk about physics, this student is not very good. Okay. So what happens is, if I consider the teacher's behavior, say around 20 years back, okay, what the teachers will do is they would have conducted this student's extra class for chemistry and this student's extra class for physics. Okay, because teachers used to consider them as a source of knowledge. Okay, if you are considering yourself as a source of knowledge and if your student is weak in something, you will definitely blame you. You will tell, okay, I might not have taught them properly. I need to teach them again to reinforce the concept. Okay. But if you talk about a teacher of current time, okay, 21st century teacher, which we call, okay, what that teacher will do is they have already identified that this student is good in physics, but this is weak and vice versa. Okay. What they will do is they will club them together. They will make them sit together, or they can give them some group assignment. Okay. Because when A and B will work together, they will be better chances of them learning from each other. It could be possible that A will learn some chemistry from B and B will learn some physics from A. Okay. That way they will reinforce each other's knowledge and simultaneously will also learn to work together. Okay. And this way teachers also will not have to put more effort. Okay, because nowadays when we see, teachers are no longer the source of knowledge. Okay, teachers role is largely like getting shifted towards being more as a facilitator. Okay, so this is how a current modern teacher will do to manage this kind of situation, and this is something which you will get to know from the reports. Okay, so going further, so this is about like what kind of actions can be taken by you as a teacher. Let us see like if there is some feedback for teachers also from the reports. So this is the concept wise distribution. Okay, so in social science, these are the weak concepts in my class. Okay, so as a teacher, you can see like correct percentage is only this much. So in this, if you see, only 4.1% answers were correct. So these are my weak points as a teacher. So for these concepts, as a teacher, you will need to take maybe figure out some other way to teach, or take some extra classes, or find different ways to actually reinforce these concepts. Okay. Similarly, for mathematics also, you are going to get your weak concepts. So this report will be generated after each test. Okay. Similarly for biology and chemistry and so on. But there are strong concepts also you will get. Okay. So these are the concepts in which your classroom performance was really good. Okay. So this actually gives you an idea. Okay. You might have applied some innovative approach while teaching these topics. That is why it resulted in very good scores, as you can see here. Okay. So this is some kind of small feedback which you will get. Like this also is available as per different subjects, and concept list is provided. Okay. Any questions so far, teachers? Okay.
Not exactly.
So yeah, so you can see like what can be measured here. So I have just shown you a glimpse of the test report. There are a lot of data points which can be measured. Okay, but the problem is not about the report. Problem is what do we do after getting the report. Okay, so if you talk about teachers like around 10-15 years back, teachers who were very good in preparing the reports, they were considered good. Okay, my exam is done now, I have prepared a very beautiful analysis and the report, and which can be given to the students. So those were considered good. But now if you see, such kind of reports can be generated with the click of a single button. Okay, now again the teacher role is again evolving because of this. The teachers who can interpret the reports to take some actions in their classrooms, those teachers are the ones who will actually have an edge over others. Okay, so as a teacher, how do you read it, how do you analyze the data? Okay, that is something which is going to come into the picture. Okay, and this is something which you as a teacher need to develop yourself for. Okay, so this is one example we have given. So like next question which comes is like, does this even work? Okay, so for this I will show you another example. So we conducted an experiment in which we conducted a test in the school for a particular chapter, and we analyzed the performance of the class. Then again with the same chapter we conducted another test after a gap of 1 month. We just wanted to know whether the feedback from the first test is implemented and does it result in a better score. I will show you two reports now. Okay, so this is the first report. So as you can see here, the test name is the chapter name is acids, bases and salt. Okay, as you can see here, acids, bases and salt. Okay, this test was conducted on June 3. Okay, now another test was conducted after a gap of 1 month, and in this you can see it was conducted on July 1st. See, July 1st. Okay, yeah, and again it is from the same chapter of acids, bases and salt. So we will compare the performance of students in both these tests. I will again put them side by side for better understanding and comparison. Yeah. Uh, So as you can see, both of them are side by side now. So let us see and compare the performance in both the tests. Okay, so let me go down in this. So this test, you can see median marks of the class were 11 here. Okay, but if we go here, you can see there is a bit of increment in the classroom median marks. Okay, so other parameters are also there. Highest accuracy 70% here, but here it is 85%. Okay, little bit of improvement you can see. Let us go down for the test performance overall. Average score, there is a slight increase in the average score also. Okay, correct percentage is also increased. Okay, here it was 55.9%, but here it is closing 60%. Okay, so little bit of improvement. Again, attempt rate is also decreased. Okay, as you can see here, it means that students were just answering everything here, but here they were more conscious. They were answering only those questions in which they were confident. That is why their attempt rate is less. Okay, and correct percentage has also increased simultaneously because of this. So this is another data point which we have seen, and it also shows that the performance and students are more conscious now. Okay, so again, this is subject wise comparison we can see here, and this is the marks distribution. Okay, so this is very interesting. See, here you can see the entire class is actually in this area, like in this part of the graph, like entire class is there. But after this test, students must have worked on the feedback. Some students might have got demotivated also. So that is why we see a very diverse kind of feedback here. So some students have scored even 100% of the marks, which none of them could here. Okay, and there is a lot of peaks here, and some students actually got a lot of demotivated as well. So this kind of feedback you are able to see here. Again, when we talk about classroom toppers, that list is also different. Okay, in my first way, like Piyush Mishra was the student who scored the highest marks, but here again it is changed, and Piyush Mishra is nowhere in the top. Okay, so these are the differences. This is how people worked on different feedback. Okay, so that's how. Okay, then again, slow learners are there. Based on your earlier test, teachers must have given some feedback, and at the result got slow learners. Okay, this is again a very interesting thing here. So in my first test, so this was a test of science subject, so only science is there. So this was the weak concept in my class. Okay, what do all acids and bases have in common? Okay, correct percentage was only 17.6. But when we see this test when we conducted this after a month gap, then you can see there is no weak concept. It basically means that teachers also worked on that feedback. Teachers also got a feedback that this concept is weak. They ensured that students learn it properly. That's why it is not coming here. It is a very objective metric for school leaders and for teachers also to self-reflect and improve their classroom performance. Okay, so that is how we have done it. So let us say, let me pick the example of science again. So entire science syllabus, let us say it is divided into 400 concepts. Okay, so you are going to get an analysis of all the 400 concepts. So based on which you can identify these concepts are weak in my class, these concepts are strong, these are the areas where I need to focus more. And that input is actually going to help you a lot in ensuring that your attention is focused on specific areas only. So it could be also, earlier what used to happen is, in the name of extra classes, teachers ended up like covering the entire chapter. But now you can be more focused and in your approach, and you can also ensure that you are giving only those selected questions to the students to assess their knowledge. Any questions so far, teachers?
Not exactly, Akash.
Yeah. Okay. Let us move further. Okay. So as we have seen here, like what can be measured, and this is what do we do after the measurement. Some part of this I have already covered. Okay, using the data to improve the academics. Okay, then improve the classroom pedagogy. So based on the data which you will get, you can apply different methods like personalized learning methods. Some students, now you know, okay, some particular student is weak in a particular concept. Okay, so they can be given special attention to that. Even you can share that report with the parents. Okay, like this student is very weak in these concepts, so they should. So rather than just saying that this student is weak in mathematics, now you can say this student is weak in linear equations, something like that. Okay, so they will be also more focused, and it will also improve your classroom pedagogy. You can apply more cooperative learning methods like we saw earlier, while like teachers can ensure two students work together and learn from each other rather than teacher is spending their entire energy. Okay, then third is active learning. Lot of active methods can be applied. Teachers will get direct feedback after the class is over, and the assessments can be used in various forms. Okay, like we have also seen, does this even work? Okay, so the entire objective of this exercise is to create a data driven school. So now we are, as a educationist, we are no longer dependent on our subjective opinions. Subjective opinions are good, but it is limited. So as a human, we can give our attention to only certain number of things. But when we are running a school of thousands of students, okay, it is humanly impossible for teachers to focus their attention on each and every student, which is where this technology is coming into the picture. Okay, using this, all the 1,000 students are going to get a personalized recommendation. They will get their personalized scores, each concept wise. They will know, okay, these are the concepts which I am strong in. And similarly, same thing will happen for teachers also. Okay, so this is the data I'm talking about. Okay, when you will when you will ensure that your decision making is based on data, then you will be far more objective in your approach. Okay, and so sometimes, like, there are situations like some students can say my teacher does not like me, that is why I'm not scoring good. So these kind of biases also we will be able to tackle because of this. So this is the attempt we are having here, like creating having more scientific approach in classroom learning. Okay, and ensuring that there is an objective way of measuring the performance so that we can track the improvement in the classes. Okay, so this is the understanding I have. I would also like to show there are some queries from the teachers we have received, like how does the subjective assessment work? Okay, I will be showing you a video here to give you an idea, because these things look very good in case of objective assessment. You have a question which will have 4 options, one of them will be correct, and so on. Okay, but how do we conduct subjective assessment? I will be showing you a video here. So please see, it is hardly like 4 or 5 minutes video. So is this screen visible? Please confirm.
Yes, it is visible.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll just run this video. Teachers are going to assign the test. They can select the time window, give the time frame, like this test will be active from this time to that time, and so on. Let's go further. Now the next step is how the students are going to attempt the test. Okay, teachers have given it is just a matter of writing a question and sending it. Okay, but the major effort comes when students actually start attempting the test. Okay, this is what we will see now. This question is a mix of subjective and objective questions. So first 2 questions for objective. Now the third question is subjective. Okay. when the subjective question comes, then students will have to upload their answer sheet. Okay, like by clicking on here, we will see how. Now they will just take the pictures of their answer sheet from their mobile devices and they will upload it. So this is the student uploading part. We will move on to the next part where teacher will assess it, evaluate the answers. The student submission is done. Now teachers are evaluating. This is also one of the most like difficult thing the teachers find hard in case of like when we are evaluating the answer sheet online. So as you can see here, teachers can annotate on the answer sheet which is uploaded by the student and they can give their comments directly on it. I think it's understood. So this is how teachers can evaluate it directly on the answer sheet. They can annotate and they can award the marks. As you can see here, this is the marks they have awarded, and that's how they can evaluate and submit it finally. Okay. So this is the entire flow here. So last step here is like how students can see their answer sheet. So after clicking on submit, students will get some notification, and then they will know about it. So this is how subjective assessment can be conducted in the class, as you have seen. Yeah. So going further, so this is how the entire end-to-end flow is covered here. Now I will come back to this question again: is teaching an art or science? Okay. So we started with idea that there are a lot of things in teaching which are art, lot of things which are scientifically done, which resemble more to tangible side of the things, which is science. Obviously, teaching is a hybrid approach, like it is both a mixture of art and science, but with using latest technology tools and with proper scientific way, we are trying to attempt to convert more intangible things in the teaching learning process to a tangible side, so that we can manage our schools and learning outcomes at a larger scale. Okay, so this is how we are working as a company to solve this problem, so that as a teacher or as a school, you can actually conduct your classes in an online world and run a school which is purely data driven and is also achieving academic excellence here. Okay, so teachers, so if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. uh, the my part of my presentation is over here, so we would like to know your inputs, and if there is something you find like can be improved or any suggestion you have for us, please feel free to do so. And yeah, looking for your feedback now. So this forum is now open for the discussion. If teachers have any questions, that also they can ask. Archana ma'am, any questions?
Sir, as you have told us, a lot of the things we have to be get to be follow for improving the performance of a student over here.
Yes ma'am.
Sir, sometimes it may happen that we get to be applied all these things. Then also we are not getting any satisfactory result at that time. So many times we teachers get to be feel like that it is a maybe a certain default from our end over there. So we have not put a lot of attention on that, and that was the reason. That's why the result has not been achieved over here. But somewhere we are getting lacking from the part of the student also, whatever the efforts we are getting keeping. So it should be a jointly get to be done by the teacher as well as a student. So somewhere we teachers get been find that the equally participation of the student we are not get been finding over there. And this may be the one of the major cause get been coming for us, that we are not getting any satisfactory result over there. So how we get to be that make the more interaction within student and the teacher should be possible in the class. What we should have to be do.
Okay, so to answer that question, like how do we ensure that classrooms or students are attentive in the class and are engaged? Okay, so this is where our formative assessments comes into the picture, and that is especially important in current time when we are having our classes in the online setup. Okay, so formative assessment is nothing but just a simple one or it can be a simple yes no question also which you can ask. Okay, so like in the Zoom call also, I can conduct a poll here just to collect feedback from all of you. Okay, so getting that kind of data driven input will help you to identify like the students who are actually attentive in the class, they will be able to answer those questions. Okay, the students who are not paying attention, they will not be able to answer it correctly. Okay, so that is a like way to actually for you to measure how classroom engagement is going on. It is a simple feedback loop. You ask a question and students will answer it. So even if their video is not on, you cannot look into their eyes like we used to do in our regular classrooms. Okay,
Sometimes, many times maybe happens that we are getting asking a question over there, we're not getting any response from the student over there.
exactly.
So this is getting a major problem coming this time when we are having an online classes. But if we are in the class, so we have get to be interact with them and we get to be force them to get to be sit for an extra and we get to be teach them extra over there where you get me lacking, we get to be complete that things what the problem is getting coming for individual student. So these things are getting we are lacking in the online classes over here.
So this is where I'm saying, ma'am. So we need to adopt more outcome-based approach here. Okay. So even if they are not paying attention, so if we start with the assumption that if some student is paying attention, then they will be able to answer my question. Okay.
Yeah.
So after the class or during the class, I am asking 5 questions. Okay. If the student is able to answer those questions, it is a proof I can have, which will tell me that students are paying attention. But if they are not able to answer those questions correctly, it means that they are not paying attention. Okay. So that way you will get an objective way to measure whether the classroom engagement is happening or not. Okay. And that will be clearly available with you as well after the classroom as well. And that report can be shared with parents or school management saying that, okay, I conducted the class of 40 students, and out of 40, 10 students were not paying attention in the class and they have scored very less marks, right?
Yeah.
So this is a way for you to measure it, okay? But again, so as we are again debating whether it is science or art, teachers also need to improve themselves. Maybe
Definitely.
because right now you are comparing yourself, like you are just coming on a single screen for the students. They can open a YouTube video, they can go to a song, okay? So teachers also need to be entertainers, I would say here. They
Yeah.
should be good in storytelling and engaging the classroom in a better way, so that students, rather than being forced to listen to you, they should also like be interested to listen to you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So no matter how much formative assessment you will put in the picture, you will also have to see like because right now on the screen you are a performer. Okay.
Yeah,
Like
definitely.
when I am speaking here in this class or in this session, if I am not engaging enough, you will just turn off the video and you will move, right? No one is stopping you to actually leave this session, right? So I also have to ensure that I am taking care of your queries. I also need to ensure that the session is engaging with proper feedback loops, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other teachers who have any questions, please feel free to ask. So we have a lot of good teachers. So BCM school, Rashmi ma'am was there, Isha ma'am was there. If you have anything, please ask.
Yeah, Kash, there's a suggestion from my side.
Yes, ma'am.
It's basically for the benefit of the teachers for basically subjective corrections.
Mm-hmm.
It's like whenever, like for subjective corrections, you have portrayed that the teacher can go to the link, like go to the screen, see the answers, highlight, and write a comment, right?
Yes.
So in that case, what we can do is, as we prepare our answer key for the
Mhm.
multiple choice questions also, there are keywords which are basically taken up to assess their subjective part. So
Mhm.
what can be done is, when the teachers are making the question paper and like using your portal, at that time they prepare an answer key for writing the 4 or 5 keywords or like a sentence, and in case they highlight on that student's subjective part, yes, okay, we are looking for this answer,
Mhm.
and this is going to help them in scoring 1 mark. So you highlight and automatically it is registered as 1 mark. So if the teacher is not getting a satisfactory answer,
Mhm.
obviously the scoring would be more easy, rather than like writing a comment or like making like subjective corrections are basically difficult to do online. So in
Mhm.
case we do that ways, it would be good. So it's just suggestion, if you could incorporate in your
Yeah.
software.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am, for the suggestion. So just to add here, so right now also teachers, while creating the subjective assessment, teachers will have an option to upload the correct answer as well, which they can take a reference while doing the evaluation. Okay. So that part is there, but yeah, I agree with you. Like it doesn't automatically recognize right now. So if there are some keywords, then it won't highlight as of now. But yeah, that is definitely the next step. And thank you for this suggestion. And I think it will involve a lot of machine learning into the evaluation, which is definitely the way to go for us. Good. So yeah, I think then now we can wrap this session for today. I would like to thank all the teachers who have participated in this session, and I have noted down your suggestions, and I hope this session was useful to you as well, and we were able to take away something after this session, not in terms of what the product is, but as a personal feedback to us as well. Like as a teacher, how do we need to improve? How do we have to change ourselves to stay relevant and to have an edge over other colleagues, or how to be competitive? Okay. So yeah,